والآن توب ستوريز من وطن الكرامة.
Hello, welcome to Watan al-Karama News Channel. It is 9 p.m. Our time for top stories, and we start with latest developments in Libya. Parliament Speaker and Chancellor Agila Saleh Guaider called on UN envoy to Libya Bernardino Leon to introduce a written binding commitment pledging that the coming Prime Minister and the first deputy of the Government of National Unity will be selected from the characters that have been nominated by the Parliament. Guaider noted in an official statement that the pledge should include the election of the consensus government by only the elected parliament. Moreover, debate around the political agreement draft, which was signed by the parliament through its representatives in the dialogue in Sikhirat, has been closed and become a non-adjustable draft. He also stressed that these commitments must be written because it is a guarantee for the success of the dialogue, and in the case of failure to respond to these commitments, the parliament will find itself in front of demands of the Libyan streets, and then it will be obliged to take actions that keep the democratic process. The Parliament discussed the four options presented by the Roadmap Commission. Deputy of the Parliament's decision maker Sabah Tarhouni said that the choices, including informing the United Nations of the Parliament's readiness to form a national unity government with participation of the parties that have signed the draft, or holding indirect presidential elections and extending the mandate of the Parliament until the completion of preparation for draft constitution and referendum, or making indirect presidential elections and announcing the end of work of the Parliament and giving powers to the elected President to issue the necessary legislations, while the fourth option is to declare a state of emergency in the country and form a military council in order to manage the affairs of the country. Parliament member Salah Arabi said that Abu Bakr Baira and Abdul Rahman Shalgam are the most recommended characters for the post of the coming Prime Minister in the proposed unity government supported by the Parliament. Arabi noted that most of the candidates for the government of national unity have the qualifications and certificates that make them strong candidates for the post. He also noted that criteria for selecting the Prime Minister relied on that each territory introduces its candidates to the government. And still in Libya, the interim government has issued a decree to form a new board of the Libyan Program for Integration and Development headed by Salahuddin Legrayem instead of its former head Mustafa Zakzali. The task is the Libyan Program for Integration and Development, according to decisions of its inception in year 2011, consisted in recruiting and interviewing the ex-combatants to reintegrate them into society through education, training, rehabilitation, and provisions of work opportunity. The Libyan program is considered as a governmental institution belonging to the cabinet presidency, and it was known after its foundation with the name Body of Veterans Affairs, and it was subject to the laws and procedures followed in all ministries and government institutions. The Air Force destroyed the bulldozer loaded with arms and ammunition of Marine support in Benghazi. The developments come as Benghazi witnessed almost daily violent clashes between the Arab Libyan armed forces and the terrorist Daesh militant group. The armed forces have succeeded during the last few days in restoring a number of military vehicles following the control of Battalion Number 102 in Martuba, Al-Fatayh and Al-Hila district of Hisha camp and expelling extremist groups from it. And we still Libya. Terrorist Libyan militias launched an arrest campaign against citizens of Janzour area west of the capital Tripoli. A local source in the region said that the arrests affected 130 citizens because they belong to Rishfana tribe that supports the Arab Libyan armed forces, adding that the terrorist militia called on the armed forces to release 3 of its arrested leaders in exchange for the release of the arrested citizens. A number of protesters demonstrating in Elibrig airport to prevent tribes elders from traveling to Egypt to meet with the UN envoy Bernardino Leon. Airport sources said that the protests have succeeded in preventing the departure of the elders and the matter that prompted the United Nations plane to leave the airport without them. And now we transfer to the Arab arena, especially Yemen. Militia forces led to Yemen's exiled president fought against Houthi militiamen in the country's third largest city of Taiz. The clashes have been going on since the Houthis stepped back from the southern port city of Aden. The fighting has left much of the city in ruins and its residents pinning down inside their homes. One official allied to Hadi claimed advances by his side against the Houthis. A civil war in Yemen erupted in late March when the Iran allied Houthis, who has seized the capital Sana'a last September, drove southwards, forcing the government to flee into exile in Saudi Arabia and triggering a Gulf military intervention. A coalition led by the United States conducted airstrikes against terrorist Daesh operating a staging area located in a stadium near Ramadi in Iraq. The stadium was a key terrorist Daesh command and supply hub in the region and a central node for leader aid funnel down the Euphrates River Valley. Extremist Daesh militants also used the stadium as the base of operations to control fighters across the Ramadi region and to store large amounts of homemade explosives, weapons and ammunition, as well as vehicle-borne impoverished explosive devices. According to the U.S. Defense Department, destroying this hub will significantly disrupt the terrorist Daesh ability to conduct operations and resupply their fighters in Ramadi. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry said today that the United States was committed to taking more of the Syrian refugees fleeing war in their convoy. Kerry spoke to reporters after meeting with lawmakers on Capitol Hill, including one that addressed the migrant crisis in Europe. He added to elaborate on how many would be accepted or when. The State Department has said since the start of the civil war in Syria, the United States has taken in about 1,500 refugees, or 300 more expected to clear by October. European nations have taken in waves of migrants fleeing violence, notably Germany, which allowed some 20,000 people in over the weekend and is preparing for 800,000 this year. Some U.S. lawmakers are pressing the administration to do more to address the crisis. European Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker urged today that the main political parties in Greece to pack the country's third ballot and carry out long delay reform regardless of who wins election schedules for this month. His message in his first State of the Union addresses to the European Parliament in Strasbourg today came as opinion polls show no clear winner on the September 20 elections of the leftist Syriza's party tied to conservative New Democracy. The EU chief said that the new Greek government must respect the appellate agreement struck with the Eurozone, or the EU's resolve to keep the Greece in the single currency bloc could change. And finally, we transfer to the crisis in Lebanon. Lebanese security services looked down central Beirut today as ministers and parliamentarians met to discuss ways out of the political crisis that has paralyzed government and fueled a wave of street protest. Activists mobilizing against government failure, including a rubbish disposal crisis that has allowed garbage to pile up in Beirut, gathered for protest but were kept away from government buildings by soldiers and barbed wire fences as politicians held meetings behind the barricades. A national dialogue meetings called for Parliament Speaker Nabih Berri ended with no apparent decisions for a way out of the deadlock that has seen the cabinet struggle to take basic decisions and kept the presidency vacant for more than a year. A spokesman said after the meeting that another session would be held in a week's time. Prime Minister Tamam Salam said that the garbage is putting pressure on the people and stirring the people's anger. We share the anger if we cannot reach a cure. Salam has expressed frustration at the failings of his cabinet, which has yet to resolve the garbage problem. My audience, that is the wrap-up of our top stories for today. For much more, you can check our website www.watanelkarama.tv. Thanks for being with us. See you next time. My greeting, Rانيا البليدى.